What's good, YouTube? Brian here, back again with another rod review, and today we're going off the reservation a little bit. We're not going to be talking about Megabass, Shimano, G. Loomis, St. Croix, none of that. We're going to be talking about Dobyns. I know this has been highly requested from the audience. I know everyone's wondering, when am I going to talk about an Ecstasy or a Champion or an Extreme HP? Well, today we are going to focus on a spinning rod, and it is a DX 703 SF. And we're going to talk a lot about this rod. We're going to talk about Dobyns a little bit in general. Now, full disclosure, I have had Dobyns rods in the past. This is not the first one I've used. I've had some Champion cranking rods. I've had some Furies. I've had Fury spinning. I've had Fury casting rods. So I've dabbled in the Dobyns rods over the past. I don't have any currently in my collection, but I have used them, so I do have some experience with Dobyns. So this is not just, oh, I just picked one of these up and tried it for a week, blah, blah, blah. Shout out to my friend Josh, my tournament partner, who actually let me borrow this rod. I traded him one of my NRX rods for a couple months, and he gave me this to play around with and use. So I have had like 2 months, maybe even a little more, of seat time with this rod. I've used it for smallmouth fishing in Wisconsin, so I do have some experience with this, and I really want to go in depth on this. So we're going to go a little deep on Dobyns, and especially this particular rod. Now, first off, fit and finish. This is almost their highest priced rod. They have one more rod line that is more expensive than the DX Extreme HPs, and that is the Ecstasy. This is a $340 MSRP rod, which means that it should have very high standards. For north of $300 in today's rod market, you better have a banging rod. It better be really, really crisp and really nice. Now, the fit and finish on this rod is surprisingly good. I don't think any of this is done in the U.S. All this is probably manufactured overseas. And you can tell the fit and finish is fantastic. All the thread wrapping and all the epoxy, everything is straight and uniform all the way up to the blank. There's not a ton of flourishes. The threads are pretty straightforward and simple, but they are uniform and they go up the blank really clean. In fact, the fit and finish on this rod is better than St. Croix, better than G. Loomis. It is what it is. You guys don't do such a great job with the fit and finish, but this HP is really nice. So I got zero complaints on the fit and finish. I like that they threw some color accents and some flourishes here. There's a gold and orange theme going on with this entire line of rod, and in fact, they put some gold metal trim at the bottom at the butt handle, which I think is really cool looking. You do get a hook keeper. They do a nice little aluminum butt plate right here. So fit and finish wise, it's pretty nice. The blank has a Kevlar, what they say is a Kevlar finish up until the first guide, and then the rest of the blank is unfinished. So looks wise, it's pretty cool. Their logo's got a nice little fade on it, and I got zero complaints in the fit and finish department, so I give them like an A on the fit and finish. Not A plus, but it's definitely an A. So one thing that you're going to hear constantly from Dobyns fanboys and people who love Dobyns rods is the balance. Oh my gosh, the balance is amazing. They balance so well. Well, one of the reasons they balance, or people talk up the balance, is because these things are heavy. Dobyns rods are not light. Maybe the Ecstasies are. I haven't played with them. I haven't touched them. I've never even seen one in person. But I have played with the HPs, the Furies, and the Champions, and they are all tanks. Now, this particular rod weighs 4.14 ounces, which is fairly heavy for a rod in its price point. For a $340 rod, this thing is kind of a tank. Daiwa Tatula rods are lighter than this thing, and they're half the price, essentially. So just to let you know, you are getting a heavier rod. Now, the guides are alkalite, and they look to be titanium. So you're getting lighter guides. I'm pretty sure it's the titanium guide train with alkalite. It's the K series, what everybody uses. So the guides are supposedly lightweight, but the blank, I don't know what makes these rods so heavy. It could just be the big cork. I don't know. I mean, I don't understand why these rods are kind of portly for the price point, but it is what it is. So, but balance-wise, let's go back to balance. This is the alleged amazing balance of a Dobyns Ecstasy. I'm sorry, a Dobyns HP. So this is the DX. This is the current model of the Champions. Now, if you notice, my finger, I'm balancing this on a Dio Tatula LT3000, which is what I would be considering a lightweight reel, but lightweight reels are kind of the standard now. You got your CI4s, you got your Vanfords, you got your Dio Tatulas, you got your LT reels. Most of the reels people are buying nowadays are these lightweight reels, and that's what I go with, and I think that's what most people go with, so that's what I'm using. I'm sure if you put a heavier reel on this, yes, it will balance much better, but I'm judging this based on the reels that I like to use, which are the LTs, or a Vanford, or a CI4, the lighter weight spinning reels. Now, if you see that, it's about a ½ inch above the lock nut. Now, that is not what I would consider phenomenal balance. I think that's mediocre balance. It's okay. It's not. It could be worse, but that's like almost borderline St. Croix Legend Tournament Bass bad balance. And this thing has a big back half. Like, this handle is pretty long and meaty, and so for having such a big and long meaty handle, I'm surprised that the balance probably isn't better. Now, this is with a full spool of 10-pound braid, so it is what it is. The balance isn't phenomenal. Now, I'll give you an example of its main competitor. Now, the rod that I'm going to compare this rod the most to is well, you probably guessed it, the 7-foot medium power X-Pride. Now, the balance point on the X-Pride is basically the same. It's it's a little better, I would say. Not much better, but a little better. It's about a 1/4 inch above the lock nut, where the Dobyns is almost about a ½ inch above the lock nut. So I would say the balance on the X-Pride is better. But one thing about the X-Pride is this thing weighs 3.77 ounces. So 3.7 ounces versus 4.14. So 3.77, 4.14. And the X-Pride is $60 cheaper. So $60 less. You're getting a rod that's lighter by a lot than the Dobyns HP DX series, and you're getting a rod that's slightly better balanced. And also, the X-Pride has the spiral X-Wrap that goes all the way up the blank, making this thing super durable. So anyway, just food for thought. We're going to come back to this rod in comparison to this one later, but for right now, I got to give the X-Pride the edge in the balance department and the price department. So let's go back to this thing. Ergonomics. This rod is the number one complaint I have with this rod is the handle. So now I choke up. I usually have the rod, I like to hold it in my pinky. I like to put it between my pinky. Now when I choke up and I grip this rod, I have a whole finger and thumb that is going north of the lock nut. That is super uncomfortable. I don't like that. Now I have a similar complaint with the X-Pride, although it's not as bad, and I'll show you in a second. So when I choke up and I'm holding this rod, my finger is literally resting above the lock nut and my thumb is way up here. Now, I don't like that. That is just not a comfortable seating position. What's funny is you got all of this cork down in the butt, and the only part of my hand that's actually touching the cork is my pinky and the bottom edge of my palm. So to me, that's a fail. I don't like the handle on this. I know this is a Fuji handle, so Dobyns does not make this handle. They're buying it from Fuji. But man, it's just not great. So if I choke down and I go in the middle, it's a little better. Then my finger is getting below the lock nut and my thumb is getting on there. So this ergonomically is better to do the middle clinch, right in the middle. But that's just, it's not comfortable for me. I like choking up. I'm a choker upper. I just have been all my life, and I use a lot of spinning rods, so I'm set in my ways. So I have to give this handle design don't like it, not a fan. Now, when I choke up on the X-Pride, people are going to be like, oh, the X-Pride's the same. Well, when I choke up on the X-Pride and I get my pinky in there, I can get my full forefinger and thumb on the lock nut when I choke up. So I'm kind of choking the lock nut when I'm holding it on the X-Pride. So I actually say that the X-Pride grip is way more comfortable, even though it's not my favorite grip, and I got issues with this grip as well. But like I said, for $60 less, I can handle this grip a lot better than the Dobyns. So this is going to start to sound like a Shimano commercial, like, oh, you should buy the X-Pride, not the HP. But I'm just, as a consumer, I'm trying to tell you, you're looking at this rod at $60 more than the Shimano X-Pride. What are you getting for $60? Where's your extra $60 going? So we're trying to unlock that here, and I don't think I'm going to have a good answer for you. So, fit and finish, good. Balance, not great. It's mediocre at best. Handle, thumbs down. Now let's talk about the action and sensitivity. This rod, the 703, is supposedly a medium power fast action rod. This rod is pretty whippy. It's very, very soft compared to what I consider kind of a benchmark and standard for a 7-foot medium, which would be the X Pride. That's a really normal medium extra fast action. This thing is bendy. I'm going to show you guys a bend test, so if you skip to the end of the video, I'm going to show you guys how the action on these are different. But this is a really, really soft rod. For a medium, I was actually surprised at how deep the parabolic action goes down into this blank. So I'm just going to hold it right here. And this tip is still bending into this guide right here. So if we give this a bend, like right where my finger is where it's still swooping. So you got a nice long bend, hits here, and goes, it probably doesn't really kick into the power in the blank until about where my finger is right here. That's when you're kind of hitting that backbone. Look how much of the blank, I mean, we're talking this much of the blank is all whip. So if you want a really soft, whippy, medium action or medium power, fast action spinning rod, this might be your jam. This is a really whippy rod. The tip is almost as soft as a St. Croix Legend X 7-foot medium spinning rod. So it's a soft rod, soft action, not a super stout 7-foot medium. So if that's what you're looking for, then maybe you should check this rod out. This rod you could drop shot with. There's not very many 7-foot medium spinning rods that I would say, oh yeah, that thing can totally drop shot. But because this thing is so parabolic and whippy, if you drop shot with like a 1/4 ounce or even more, like up to maybe 3/8, this thing could totally do it. So, you know, maybe that's your jam. So if you're looking for a 7-foot medium that you can drop shot into grass with a heavier weight, or even deep drop shot with a heavier weight, this would be definitely a good option. So sensitivity. This is where I'm going to really probably piss off some Dobyns folks. This thing is not that sensitive. And this is just my personal opinions. I had this rod rigged up with a 3/16 Ned head with a Ned plastic, and I was fishing a rock pile, spot locked, throwing into this rock pile with this particular rod, hitting the bottom, dragging, and I was feeling the rocks, and I actually got a couple bites on this. I set the hook on a 3-pounder. I caught a nice fish. Not too bad. But then I picked up the X Pride, which had the exact same Ned rig on purpose. I throw the same baits in the same situation sometimes just to test the sensitivity. I threw in my the X Pride into this rock pile, and I even threw in an NRX the 873, and wasn't even close. Like, these two had so much better sensitivity. I could feel the rock piles, I could feel the tugging, I could feel a little more. The problem I had with this rod is I couldn't really tell the difference between the bait kind of catching on a rock versus a fish actually eating it and kind of pulling on it. So when I did catch a fish on this, on that rock pile, and when I was lifting it, I felt like I had a snag. And as I kind of like tried to jimmy it loose, I felt head shakes. I was like, oh, that's a fish. I didn't feel that fish really on the end of the rod, where I do feel that with some of these other rods a little better. So I gotta say, the sensitivity for $340 does not blow me away on this rod. I hate to say it. I'd say that this rod, maybe it's because it's so soft that the bite and the bottom contact didn't really transfer as well to me personally in my hand. Everyone might have different experiences, but I have used extensively NRX spinning rods. I got the Shimano Conquest. I've tried tip of the spears of many different spinning rods, and so I kind of feel that my hand and my brain are pretty tuned in on sensitivity for this type of spinning rod. And to me, I give it like a B minus even maybe. So the sensitivity on this thing does not, for $340, it does not blow my skirt up. So overall, my thoughts on this rod are, for $340, I would never pay that for this rod. I know a lot of people get these things for 20% off. Dobyns is always running sales. They're often running sales through their main distributors, like American Legacy. You can get these 20% off. There's a lot of different sites that do these things on sale. So if you can get this for like 20 or 30% off, or even used, great. $340 though, that's a really tough sell. You're getting a pretty standard guide train. You're getting a pretty okay fit and finish. The weight is nothing special, 3.14 ounces on this thing. It's a pretty heavy rod considering where modern fishing rods are in the 300 plus price range. So that's my opinion on this rod. It's not bad. Oh, the cork. I will say the cork on this rod seems pretty good. I know the DX, they went up to a higher end cork for the DX series. And I will say there is a considerable amount of filler. You can see it as the rod has gotten older and more used, but the filler is not falling out. I don't see any missing filler, and this rod has had, I don't know, at least 2 years of really hard use. So, and it is soft. I like the way it feels. Problem is, my hand isn't contacting very much of that cork the way I hold my rod. So you got all this cork on this rod that's just not even being really utilized. So it should last a long time, right? So if you got any questions about this particular rod, please shout out in the comments. If you like this rod and you use it for things, let me know. I use this rod for Ned rigging, for swim baits, paddle tail swim baits, and I did do some finesse jigging with it. Now, this rod is not that stiff, so I would not be using this rod for any kind of like anything but finesse jigs. This thing is not that stout, so we're going to jump over to a quick bend test between this one and the 7-foot medium X Pride, and after that we're going to close out the video. So just want to say thanks for watching, and we're going to jump to the bend test, and that'll be it. Thanks. Okay, here we go. So a little messy down here right now. We've been doing some reorganizing in the basement, so apologize for that. But this is the two rods in question. The 703 SF from Dobyns, the DX HP series, and then the Shimano 7-foot medium X Pride. So we're going to start the bend way up here. If you notice, right towards the top, maybe about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guides down. Look how much lower the Dobyns DX is dropping, man. This thing is soft. Look how spongy that is when you get down towards past the tip. Now, if we go higher up the tip, the X Pride is a very stout 7-foot medium. I think it's like a true medium power, fast spinning rod. But yeah, the Dobyns is a lot softer. You can tell by the way it drops. So let's move down to blank a little bit as we get kind of towards the, I'd say, 6th guide. The Dobyns is still considerably more soft and bouncy, whereas the X Pride is starting to kick into the backbone and get into the meat and potatoes of the rod. But as you can still see, the HP Dobyns is still softer. So in my opinion, the action on this Dobyns rod is just, it's soft. I don't know how else to describe it. It's for a medium power, fast spinning rod. It's one of the softer ones I've handled, and some people want that, which it's not a bad thing. I'm not really saying you don't want a softer, more parabolic, medium spinning rod. Maybe you do. Like I said, it's a personal preference thing, but you know, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. It's got a lot more parabolic action, and you know, to some people that's a positive. I think it's a positive in most cases, but you know, to me, this is not really what I would consider a fully traditional 7-foot medium, but you know, every rod manufacturer interprets what medium means, and it's still a fun rod to use. And I thank you for watching. Give me a like and subscribe if you've made it this far in the video. You are obviously a complete and utter rod nerd. So thanks for checking out the channel. I appreciate it. Until next time, take it easy.